Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so this is the second lesson of the course Western Sociological Perspectives, and it's titled, this lesson is titled Foundational Sociological Concepts. And basically, we're going to look at some basic concepts and key terms which are used over and over again in sociology, and any discussion is irrelevant or pointless unless you know these terms. So let's start. First off, we have power, and power is the capacity of individuals or anyone to make their will prevail, or in other words, you can control others, able to influence or impact others, right? You're able to make them accept what you want as opposed to what they want. You're able to exert your will on others. So according to, this is the definition given to according to Max Weber. Okay, so he says that power is imposing your will on others. So for example, a police officer or your parents or the government, all of them are in some way able to impose their wills on you, right? And so when we're talking about power, there's different kinds of different types, right? There's the political type, which includes the government and the law. Okay, so it's the one which includes the executive branch, the judiciary, the legislative, like the Supreme Court, the Parliament, the chambers like the Senate and the upper and lower house, and it also includes the prime ministers and presidents and the cabinet and ministers and different people. So they are able to exert power through political means. Then you have the economic power, which, as the name suggests, is power based on wealth and money. So they are able to influence others through their wealth. All right, very simple. Then this one is interesting. It is the social power, and this includes using your social identity to have power. Let's take three different examples. The status, right? Social status. So your status is the reputation that you have in a society. Status means your ranking in a society, how much you are loved and trusted by others, right? So some people confuse status with having wealth, but it is different. Your social class, like how rich you are, and your status are two different things, right? It basically means how much do people respect you. So you could be someone who is really poor but have a high status, right? So anyone who has a high status is guaranteed to command authority over others. He's able to exert his will, influence and impact the decisions of others, and is able to control them. Another way that you can have social power is through gender, right? Both men and women have their own separate kinds of powers. Like men are physically and biologically stronger. They have the strength, right? So they're able to lift, run, fight a lot much better, right? They are physically stronger. But women are emotionally stronger, as in they have more control over emotions. They understand emotion better. They are able to console with others, right? They can provide emotional support, and they're also able to express their emotions better, right? So it gives them emotional power, and as gender, and they can use it in society, and we see it all the time, that this shapes how the family structures are and the societies are, right? And similarly, age as well. So if you are young, you don't have a lot of power, you can't really make anyone do something, but as you grow older, you are able to do it. And then there is also cultural. which means that you have the power to shape the culture around surrounding you. So for example, take US, right? They have the cultural power around the world. They have the Hollywood, they have the McDonald's and the likes of these, right? So they're able to exert their cultural power on top of others, and they're able to influence that, right? Yeah, so there is two kinds of power that we can say. First is legitimate and the other one is coercive. Legitimate power is the one that is that comes from laws or from the culture or the norms, or basically people accept you, right? Accept that it is the right way. So for example, the police or the parents. Whereas the coercive power is considered wrong, like the bullies, gangs, thugs, armed groups and the likes of them, right? Yeah, so there's two kinds, legitimate and coercive. Now let's look at the Islamic perspective on power. So we believe that the ultimate sovereignty belongs to God alone, which means that God is the one who is the all powerful, right? And all the power belongs to him alone, which means that all the power that humans have has been entrusted by God. We don't have any power by ourselves, that it is only given by God, and it is through his trust that we are able to exercise it, right? So what does it mean? It means that we have to exercise power according to the God's law, right? What he wants us to do. Remember, when we talked about power earlier, when we defined it, we said that it was able to impose your will on others. So if you have this definition, then you have to understand that in Islam we don't own our bodies. We don't have any control over our bodies, right? So we don't even have our will, right? We should put God's will above the human's will, and that is the ultimate definition of power, that you're able to that someone else, that you are able to make other accept their will. So God is able to do it, and we have to submit according to it, right? Moreover, we have the next concept, which is values. And values are basically ideas about what is good, wrong, what is good and bad, what is right and wrong, and what is desirable and detestable. So ideas about morality, ideas about what is good or what is bad, right? So for example, honesty or generosity, right? Justice, revenge, honor, shame, right? So values are basically the standard of moral judgment in a society, right? We use values in society to judge others, to make sure that there is moral conformity others, right? So for example, in Western societies, the values include individualism, equality, innovation, personal freedom, private property, and the likes of that. Whereas in the Islamic societies, we have the communalism, right? Community welfare, respect for others, right? Justice, compassion, charity, humility, spirituality, right? And the things like that. So we can see that there is a difference between the two, right? And these values then shape how our societies act and perform, right? So values have a function in society, right? They are what we call, and they form a collective conscience, right? Which means that the values are able to cause social cohesion or unity between people. Then we have norms. Norms are the social rules and expectations, right? So expectations, how does a society expect you to behave, right? How should you behave in a specific situation? So values tell you what is right and what is wrong, and norms are the social expectations or the rules according to which you are supposed to act. And norms, for example, you should be honest, you should not cheat others, you should live up to your promises, right? You should honor your guests, you should honor your parents, you should take care of the children, right? These are different expectations and norms that you have, right? So so unlike values which are just ideas for good and bad, norms are like principles, like they're social rules to tell you what to do and what not to do, do's and don'ts, right? So for example, if honesty is the value, then the norm would be an expectation or a rule based on honesty, which would be to only always be honest, always be truthful, and to not cheat. There's two kinds of norms: formal and informal. And formal includes formal norms are basically written down, they are codified and written down. So like the school and workplace rules, right? Or laws and things like that. And if you are able to, if you break these formal norms, right, if you are able to break them, then you will be sanctioned, you will be punished. You will be punished does not mean you will be jailed. It means that you will get a kind of negative reaction from the society. It means that you might lose your job, or you might lose someone's respect, you might be insulted, you might lose your friendships, someone might dislike you, right? People may avoid you, or it can also mean that you can be jailed. Then you have informal norms, and these are the norms which are not written down, and they are known only through context and experience. They are not some codified kind of norms. Like for example, greetings, how are you supposed to greet others, right? This is not something which is written anywhere, you learn it through experience. Same thing about table manners and eating, right? So just as you will get punished if you don't follow it, you will get approval for following it. Islamic perspective on norms is that our norms basically come from the Quran and the Hadith and the tradition that we have. Like for example, praying 5 times a day, that is a norm, that is a social expectations, these are the rules. Paying zakat, right, that is a social rule that you should do, right? But at the same time as we have the norms from the scripture and the hadith, we also have the emphasis on the local customs and local norms that exist in the form of urf, right? So as long as your local norms in a society don't conflict with the Sharia, then it is fine, right? In fact, a Hanafi scholar, Al-Sarakhraski, he said that whatever is established by good custom is equally well established by sound legal proof. What it means is that any custom or any norm which has good in it, good as in from Islamic values, then it is established, it is part of the Islamic jurisprudence, right? So it is important to learn about values and norms, because sometimes we just consume different values and we don't really understand them, where they came from, and it turns out that they are really dangerous, and they can hurt you. They can hurt you and your family. They can hurt your beliefs. They can hurt your society, right? Unless you know where they come from and you know what is the why are these values there, where did they come from, right? And this is the whole point of our course, that we will look at these values, we will judge them, we will criticize them, and we will see that some values that emerge, why did they emerge, and inshallah how to find their weak points. But you have to know that not everything in values are wrong. There can be right things as well. Okay, so moving on, we have culture. Right, so culture in simple term, it means the entire way of life shared by a group of people, the entire way to live by a group. So entire way it includes everything. It includes your language, right, your ethnicity, your technology, your tools, your clothes, your food, your architecture, your beliefs, your religion, your values, your symbols, art, everything. Okay, so there's two kinds of culture: material and non-material. Material elements or material subsets of a culture are things that we can see, that are physical, that you can touch, that you can understand, and you can they're physically present, like the tools, different artifacts, right? Your dress codes, food, cuisine, the technology, right, things like that. And non-material elements, this includes their values, beliefs, languages, symbolical meanings, and maybe some other things like poetry, for example, and also religion. So one thing about culture is that people often misunderstand it, and they believe that you should have all these different things to be considered culture, but it is not really that case. If members of a society share something in common, whether it is language, whether they have meanings attached to certain symbols, or they have similar beliefs and values, then we can say they're part of similar culture. They're part of one culture, right? So it's not just that you need all of these things. If you have some of them, you can be considered part of one culture. And this is why you have to understand that culture is not one monolithic body. It is possible for one society to have multiple cultures at the same time, and it is also possible for one culture to span different societies, right? So it's not that black and white. Another thing to note is that culture is constantly changing. It is constantly evolving. It is taking new forms, new shapes. Okay, let's look at this. So 200 years ago or 300 years ago, the language that you were speaking in your current area wasn't the same. If you are speaking English, it was different. You were not speaking the same English that you are speaking today. You were not speaking the same words, the same grammar, even the same pronunciation. It was different. The food that you were eating would be different. The ingredients which are used in your cuisine would be different, right? And similarly, the ethnicities that you have in that place would not be the same. And the dress codes as well. The dress codes 200 year or 100 year was very different, right? So even if you are in a same place just 200 years back, it's completely different culture. But it's not just time. Time is also evolving according to space. And space means different parts of the world. It means land, right? It doesn't mean the outer space. It means different geography, right? It means geographically, that from one place to another, culture is changing. So you will not find one culture that you have at the present to be the same 2 kilometers away, right? It can change. So culture is changing across time and space. So the Islamic perspective on the culture is that we respect it, we understand, we appreciate culture diversity. There are many proofs from the Sirah, right? That Muhammad sallam, he gave the Quran in many different Arabic dialects, right? Not just for Qurayshis but for others as well. And he also had companions who were non-Arabs at the time, like Salman, the companion Salman al-Farsi, right? And he also talked about different cultures as well. So we have cultural practices as long as they don't go against Sharia, right? But what we have to remember, the important thing is that Islam promotes a trans-cultural identity. It means that although we appreciate the culture, we don't let it define us. In fact, we use a kind of identity which is beyond culture, right? So it doesn't matter what culture you belong to. You are part of the same identity if you are part of the Ummah. So it's not your cultural identity which you should promote, which you should seek. Rather, it is the ummatic identity. So you should be connected to your ummah as a lot more than culture. So let culture be part of you, but it should not be the primary occupation or the primary identity that you have. Okay, and this is why nationalism is so criticized and so absurd, that it takes the culture, that nation, and it takes it to an extreme level, and your loyalty to your culture and your tribe and your nation, if it exceeds your religion, if it exceeds your appreciation for the Muslims globally, then what will happen is that you will delve into a weakened state. You would divide yourself, right? And you would engage in a lot of different conflicts. Like look at tribalism, for example. The reason tribalism is so bad is that it weakened people, it disunited them, right? Because they had different dialects and different cultures and whatnot. So we should aim for a transcultural identity. So this was it for today. I hope you learned something, appreciated it. If you have any questions, ask me. These are just few very basic concepts, but there are a lot more, and I am going to send a glossary list which should be checked by everyone, so that they will learn more terms and familiarize themselves. So this is it. Thanks a lot. Allah Hafiz.